Hey, are you looking for a video that will help you understand what a polynomial function is?
Oh, yes!
Or are you looking for a video that will help you solve polynomial function?
My God, yes, it's a yes.
Well, this is the right video.
Earlier, you have learned what this video is all about, and it is all about polynomial function.
What about polynomial function? My God.
Polynomial function is a function such as a quadratic, a cubic, a quartic, and so on, involving only non-negative integer power of x.
By now, you have learned quite a lot. Now, I will introduce to you the definition of standard form and factored form of a polynomial function. Know that a polynomial function is written in standard form when the term in its formula is written as ordered from the highest to the lowest degree, while we will know that a polynomial function is written in factored form when it is written as a formula in its factor. We are at the last part of this video. Now we will gonna solve polynomial functions. Let's start with this given. F of x is equals to the quantity of x plus 3 times the quantity of x minus 2 squared times x plus 1 cubed. Since we already have the given, we were gonna look for the following. A. X-intercept. B. Y-intercept. C. Table of signs. And D. Sketch the graph.
So this equation, x plus 3 equals to 0, we are going to transpose 3. So this will become x is equals to negative 3. The next equation is x minus 2 equals to 0. This negative 2 will be transported to the other side, and this equation would be x is equals to 2. And the last equation, x plus 1 equals to 0, we are going to transpose 1 to the other side, which then becomes x is equals to negative 1. Now, we have found the x-intercepts for the equation.
Finding the y-intercept is more straightforward. We are going to simply set x equals to 0. And we are going to set x into 0 in our given polynomial function. So x plus 3 times the quantity of x minus 2 squared times the quantity of x plus 1 cubed, and we are going to set x into 0. So this first factor would be the quantity of 0 plus 3. The second factor would be 0 minus 2 squared, and the third factor would be 0 plus 1 cubed. And we're not going to disregard the exponents. So solve 0 plus 3, 3, 0 minus 2, negative 2, times negative 2 would be 4. And 0 plus 1, 1 raised to 3 is 1. So we are going to multiply the following. 3 times 4, which gives you 12, times 1, which gives you 12. So our y is equals to 12. Since we have already looked for our A, the x-intercept, our B, the y-intercept, next we have our table of signs. How are we going to create our table of signs? First, we are going to create a table and we are going to look for our intervals. How are we going to look for our intervals? Simply, we are going to use the values of our x-intercept that we did a while ago. And those values are negative 3, 2, and negative 1. So, we are to arrange our x-intercepts as our intervals from least to greatest. Since the least x-intercept on our x is negative 3, so our x must be less than negative 3. The next least x-intercept is negative 1. So therefore, our next interval should be x is greater than negative 3 but less than negative 1. The third interval, we have 2 because 2 is our greatest x-intercept. So x is greater than negative 1 but less than 2. And our last intercept, x must be greater than 2. So we are now going to look for our test values or the numbers that are assigned to our intervals. So x is less than negative 3. So our table, so the number that is less than negative 3 is negative 4, or this is what we call our test value. So x is greater than negative 3 but less than negative 1. So negative 2 is greater than negative 3 but is less than negative 1. That is why we use negative 2 as our next test value. Next interval, x is greater than -1 but is less than 2. So 0 can be our test values because it is greater than -1 but it is less than 2. And a number that is greater than 2 is 3. So next, for our table of values, we have arranged our polynomial function in order. So the first polynomial function we use is the x plus 3. The next one is x minus 2 squared. And the third one is x plus 3 squared. The f of x here is the value of our table of values, either positive or negative. And the p of c is the behavior of the graph. It's either positive for mali. And our p of c is the behavior of the graph. It's either above if our f of x is positive and below if our f of x is negative. So now we are going to solve for the table of signs. Let's start with our first test value, which is -4. We're going to substitute -4 on our table of values, our x. So -4 plus 3, that would give you -1. And -1 is a negative number. So our sign would be negative. Next table of values. -4 minus 2, that would give you -6. Squared, which means -6 times -6, that's positive 36. So our next table of values, -4 plus 1, that would give you -3 cubed. So -4 plus 1 is -3. -3 times -3 is positive 9 times -3 would give you -27. And -27 has a negative sign. So our sign should be negative. So now we're going to look for f of x. How are we going to look for our f of x? We're going to simply multiply the signs that we have answered a while ago. So negative times positive, that would give you negative. Times negative, that would give you positive. So our f of x is positive. And therefore, our p of c, or the behavior of our graph, should be above, since it is a positive f of x. Next test value, we have -2. So we are going to substitute -2 in our table of value. So -2 plus 3, that would give positive 1, which means that our sign is positive. Next, -2 times. Same goes for our next test values. We are just going to substitute x as our x values. So -2 minus 2 squared, that will give you negative. So we are now going to use the same steps we used for our -4 for the next test values. And we now have an answer for our table of signs. Our p of c, which is above, below, above, above. And we are going to use the p of c for our next step, which is sketching our graph. And this will help us to determine what would be the behavior of our graph. So the last part of solving our first polynomial function is sketching our graph. So how do we sketch the graph? First, we are going to use our x-intercepts, -3 to -1. And the value of our y-intercepts, which is 12. We're also going to use our p of c, what we use in our table of signs, to determine the behavior of our graph. So we are going to plot the points. -3, -1, 2, and our y-intercept, which is 12. So the behavior of the graph would be above, below, above, above. So the behavior is above, below, above, and above. So this is the behavior of our graph, and this is what.
For the second polynomial function, the given is in standard form. It looks like this. F of x is equals to 9x cubed plus 27x squared minus 36. Now we were going to look for the factors of p, q, and p over q. The factors of -36 are positive and -1, positive and -36, positive and -9, positive and -4, positive and -2, positive and -18, positive and -12, and positive and -3. For the q, the factors of 9 are positive and -1, positive and -9, and positive and -3. For the p and q, these are their factors. For p over q, The factors of negative 4 are positive negative 1, positive negative 4, and positive negative 2. To look for the P over Q, which is negative 4, we'll just divide P, which is negative 36, and Q, which is 9. Will give you negative 4.
So the next step that we are going to do is our synthetic division. So for the first row of our synthetic division is the coefficient of our given polynomial function. We are going to use a synthetic division to find the factor of our given polynomial function. Next, our divisor is from our P over Q. And now we are going to do the division. So we are going to bring down 9. 9 times our divisor, which is 1, will give you 9. So we are now going to add the dividend and 9, which gives you 36. 36 times our divisor, which is 1, will give you 36. Add will give you 36. 36 times our divisor, which is 1, would give you 36. So, negative 36 plus 36 would give you 0, meaning that our divisor is correct. So, we are now going to place our answers on the given polynomial function. That would give us 9x squared plus 36x plus 36, which is equals to 0. So, since we already have the quotient for our synthetic division a while ago, we are now going to factor it. So, to look for a factor, we have here our answer. So, the factored form of 9x squared plus 36x plus 36 is the quantity of 3x plus 6 times the quantity of 3x plus 6. Or simply, 3x plus 6 squared. So we are now going to look for our A, which is the x-intercepts. And we are going to use our given polynomial function. So 3x plus 6 is equal to 0 because we are going to disregard the exponent. So 3x plus 6 equals to 0, transpose 6 to the other side, which gives you 3x equals negative 6, and divide both equations into 3 to remove the coefficient. So 3x equals negative 6 divided by 3, that would give you x equals negative 2. For the other factor, we have x minus 1 equals to 0, and we are going to transpose 1 to the other side. That would give you x is equals to 1. And for the letter B, we have the y-intercepts. We are now going to use the zero product property and let x be equal to 0. So we are going to substitute it in our polynomial function. So 3 times 0 plus 6 squared times the quantity of 0 minus 1. Solve. 3 times 0, 0 plus 6 is equals to 6 squared, that would give you positive 36. And 0 minus 1, that would give you negative 1. Multiply 36 times negative 1, that would give you negative 36. So our y is equals to negative 36. For the third part, we are now going to solve for the table of signs. Like we did a while ago, we are going to place our intervals, which is based on the values of our x. So our least interval is negative 2. So x must be less than negative 2. Next, we have 1. The greatest x. So x must be greater than negative 2 but less than 1. And lastly, for the third interval, x must be greater than 1. So our test values, a number that is less than negative 2 is negative 3. X that is greater than negative 2 but is less than 1 is 0. And x that is greater than 1 would give you 2. So, like we did a while ago, we are going to use the test values and set them as the values of our x. So negative 3, substitute x, that would give you positive. Negative 3 minus 1, that would give you negative. Positive times negative is negative. So the behavior of our graph would be below since our f of x is negative. The same goes for the other number. Positive times negative, negative. Behavior of the graph would be below. Positive times positive, that gives you positive. Behavior of the graph would be above. So the last part would be sketching the graph. Since it is the last part, we are now going to use the value of x and y. The value of our x, which is negative 2 and 1, and a value of y, which is negative 36. And the p of c, which is the behavior of the graph. So the graph would look like this. We are now going to plot the points. Negative 2, positive 1, and negative 36. So now we are going to determine the case of our given. Our first given is f of x is equals to the quantity of x plus 3 times the quantity of x minus 2 squared times the quantity of x plus 1 cubed. This case is case number 3. Because if we are to multiply the x's, x times x squared would give you x cubed times x cubed would give you x raised to 6. And the condition of case number 3 is the x should be positive and the exponent should be even. And x raised to 6 meets the condition, which means that our given number 1 is in case number 3. And since it is positive and even, the graph should be above. And our graph a while ago looked like this, which means that our answers are correct.
So you're now familiar with the polynomial function and how to solve them. Hope this video tutorial will help you someday. Thank you and see you next time.